Hi guys, first of all, welcome to our YouTube channel. So today what we're gonna discuss is it's regarding Azure Bastion. Okay, how we are using Azure Bastion and how people configuring Azure Bastion in their project use cases. Okay, so this is what today we're gonna discuss. Okay, so first what I'll do. So first, I'm just going to take one image from internet. Okay, so first we'll discuss about the architecture, then we'll dive into the practical part. So what I'll do, so let me take the image from internet, which is for Azure Bastion connectivity. Azure Bastion architecture. Okay, so I'm just going to pick image from official Microsoft 10. So many images are looking similar. Yeah. So I'm just taking this one. Okay. Let me paste it here. Okay, guys, see this image. So what literally Azure Bastion doing in the sense, it replacing the work of jump server. When we need jump server, okay, I'll explain you about the jump server, then we'll move on to this. The jump server means when you wants to access the private resource, in that time people would configure jump server. For example, I'll configure on diagram. Give me a minute. Let me delete this part. So network. My okay, so this is going to be in right hand side. I'm just define one a black color bar, right? So this is going to be our network, my network. So inside multiple subnets would be there. Okay, let's configure the okay. Okay. Here we managing our private resources. I'll tell you, give me a second. First, let me design the diagram and after that I'll explain the further things. Okay, so these are our private resources. When organization need a jump server, when they wants to use the private resource in a more secure way, in that time they would use jump server inside. In that time, they would use jump server inside. Okay, so here, what organization would do is they won't assign any public IP to this resource. Why? Because they wanted to maintain these resources in a more secure way. Okay, so inside they are just placing their organization related things only. So that they wanted to keep this in a private state. So what literally they would do is they would configure one dummy server in that network, that dummy server which helps us to connect the private resources. Okay, so here two authentication happening. First, we need to take the remote to this jump server, and then inside of that jump server, we need to take the remote of our private resources. Okay, this is what literally happening. Two authentication is happening here. Similarly, here also two authentication happening, but here that is in server level, but here that authentication happening in the Azure portal itself. See, if I want to access my private resource, then what I need to do? One public resource is needed. After that only I can access that private resource, correct? What literally Azure providing here one services, which is Azure Bastion connectivity. Azure Bastion connectivity, which helps us to communicate our private resources. Okay, so it will turn on one, it will open one pop-up window. So that itself we can access our server. See, I want to access the server. So then what I need to do, I need to log in with log in with my credential in an Azure portal. Then I need to go with that Azure Bastion portal. After that only I can connect it. Okay, so see here two authentication is there. Here you need to define your server credential. For example, this is your server in the sense. Here you need to define the server credential. Then only you can connect via Bash. Similarly, here also you should define the credential. See, here two authentication is happening. Okay, but if you are configuring Azure Bastion, right, one dedicated subnet is needed to configure this. That is the actual concept here. But in my network, there is no server. Okay, so these are all my colleague servers. So for that, what I'll do, I'm just going to configure this setup from the scratch. So first, we'll create a resource group. I'm just going to define one name for this resource group. Azure Bastion. Azure Bastion. Let's create it. Okay, so I just created the resource group. Inside the resource group, I'm just going to configure my private resource. Okay, private resource means we can take DB as an example. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create one DB server inside. Let me take one virtual machine. Inside, I'm just going to create one DB server. Okay, so if you wanted to configure actual relational database, you wanted to place it inside in the sense, in that time you can go with the MySQL server or MS SQL server. But in this session, we are just going to check the connectivity, right? How Bastion works. So for that, I'm just creating DB server in this virtual machine itself. DB server. Okay, so here we need to define the proper name. And region also looks good, availability zone and all things are looks good. Here in this example, I'm just going to take Windows. Windows or Ubuntu, anything is fine. So see, I'm just going to take Windows. Initially, if you guys wanted to take the remote of Windows machine, what literally you guys have to do? You guys have to open the RDP tool, then you guys have to define the password like that, right? You guys should use one tool to communicate. But here, we can connect in Azure portal itself by the help of Azure Bastion. Okay, so RDP port you guys should allow. After that only, it can take the remote. And go to the disk part. Inside the disk part, I'm not going to configure anything. So let's skip it. In this network, see, this is what my network. We need to configure our Bastion connectivity in the same network itself. If you are configuring Bastion connectivity in another network or your previous network which you configured earlier, you couldn't connect Bastion connectivity to this VM. Okay, so you have to configure, you have to pick the respective network. Okay, so all things are looks good. So I'm just saving this. So go to that management, monitoring, advanced, like that. So many things are there. I'm not going to perform anything. And here, sorry. Actually, here I missed one thing. See, here I need to keep, here I need to avoid the IP. Why? Because it's a private resource. This is going to be my DB. So in that time, I need to avoid this public IP access. So this one I need to remove. Then go to the management, monitoring. Okay, so here and I'm not going to do anything. And this is going to be server from DB. Okay. So then go to create. Okay, so they are just charging 3.4 rupees per hour. Okay, so it got validated. Let's create a V. This is going to be my DVV. And also, whenever you creating any VM in Azure portal, this would take around 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, so this would take around 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, so see, just before we initialize one VM, we have to wait for some time. And now I'm going to configure Azure Bastion. And also Azure Bastion is the chargeable one. If you guys using free trial account, and once you've done the practice, delete it. So let me open the Azure Bastion. And once we found that server, then we can configure the Azure Bastion. This is what our resource group. Now we are going to configure Azure Bastion. Okay, so DB server in the creating. Okay, so our networking things all looks good. Okay, virtual network things and remaining things that looks good. Our DB is creating. Okay, once it got created, then we can access this via Bastion. This won't take that much time. We'll wait for it. Okay, so still the deployment process is going on. We'll wait for it. And then see, here you could not find any IP. Why? Because we removed that public IP. And also, this one belongs to this DB subnet. See where you can configure this Bastion. See, here they're giving one option called Bastion. Here itself, you can configure the Bastion configuration. See, they're telling here, Azure Bastion protects your VM by providing lightweighted browser-based connectivity without the need to expose them through public IP address. Deploying will automatically create Bastion host on the subnet in the virtual network. They're telling here. Okay, so give me a minute. Let me refresh the screen. Okay, so now it's a time to configure our Bastion connectivity. Yeah, so now we can configure this deploy Bastion and then configure manually. Like that, two options is that configure manually in the sense we need to configure by manual. All things we need to do by manual. If you are choosing that left side option in the sense, it will take over everything. Okay, so now I'm just going to take my like that. I'm just defining one name. Generally, whatever the resource you're gonna create in Azure, how to define one name for that. And instance count is going to be 2. Maximum I can place 2 VMs inside of Bastion. If you wanted to scale this size in the sense, you can change it. No issues on that. Let me take this one and see, to associate the visual network with a Bastion, it must contain a subnet with name Azure Bastion subnet. Like that, here they're telling Azure Bastion subnet. Okay, so what literally here we have to do is we have to create one new subnet. Give me a second. That subnet name should be Azure Bastion subnet. If you are using different name, you could not correct. Okay, and at a prefix of at least /26, they're suggesting us to create a CIDR. They are suggesting us to configure /26 as the range of our subnet. So what I'll do, I'm just copying this. Let me go back. There I'm just going to create subnet. Go to that virtual network. This is what our DB VNet, right? So let's create a subnet inside. Okay, so I just changed this CIDR range. Okay, so minimum it accepting 64. If you wanted to increase the IP address, so then you can define it. Minimum they're suggesting us to configure /26. Okay, you can use /24, 25. That's your thing. So and then here we need to define our Azure Bastion subnet name. So let me copy this. I'm just pasting here. Okay. Please select Azure Bastion. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm just taking Azure Bastion. Then automatically it's just choosing my name. So then we can create a subnet. No need to configure any additional things. Okay, so we successfully created the subnet. So now I'm just going to open my VM. So there I'm just going to configure my Azure Bastion. Open it. Then we can find the option configure by manual and my Bastion. My Bastion connectivity, and here I'm just choosing my virtual network, and see it got selected automatically, and this is going to be the public IP it's gonna use. Okay, and see here so many advanced things are there. IP based connection you want to perform, 𝗀𝗶𝗏 based authentication, 𝗀𝗏 based connection you want to perform. In that time you can choose this, but I'm not going to choose any one of this. Okay, in futures I'm just going to create so many shards regarding this. So let's go to the tags and review and create it. Let's create it, and this Bastion connectivity would take some time. Might be to take around 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, so we'll wait for it. Here's a Microsoft Defender is opening. Why this one is opening? Yep. Okay, so this process is going on. We'll wait for it. Yeah. Okay, so our Bastion got created. Generally, this would take around 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, so let's connect it. How we can connect? Go to that VM. There we can choose our DB. Then if you go inside, you can find the Bastion. Then you can simply connect it here. Connect option will come over. See 3389 is our port number. And see, this is what our username and password. If your VM using key vault authentication method, then you can choose that one. Okay, so but I'm just adding, I just define the user credential, this credential. Okay, so let's connect it. See, it opened the new window. See, now it's loading. Yeah, I'm just allowing. Initially, we used RDP tool to connect it, but see, just before I connected, whatever the thing I wanted to perform, I can do everything inside. So I can create, I can go like that. Okay, so this is the overall thing, guys, in the Azure Bastion. Okay, so yeah, okay, guys, this is what about the Azure Bastion. And in that next video, I'm going to discuss about the cloud front. Sorry, not cloud front, in Azure, right? CDN. Okay, so front door and CDN concept I'm gonna explain in that next video. Okay, so in that video, we'll see more scenario than this video. Okay, so yeah, thank you everyone. See you in the next video. Bye.
For today.